Hey guys, and welcome to my channel where I share inspiration and tips and reviews on how to live a more conscious lifestyle. Today I am reviewing an absolutely incredible, very special book called Mila's Meals. Ta-da! And I don't want to first say that it is a recipe book because it is more than just a recipe book. This is like a guide, a handbook for every single mommy who is a new mommy raising a child. This is like the basics of raising a child, but it is also more like a resource. It is full of knowledge and practical tips and making really difficult, hard concepts so easy to understand. Let's get into this beautiful book. It is written by Catherine Barnhoorn and it's called Mila's Meals, named after Catherine's gorgeous daughter. Before starting, I do have to address the elephant in the room, and that is the fact that I am reviewing a book as a non-mother, but I am coming from a place of being raised, as Catherine would say, a free from baby. I am free from kid. So I was born with many digestive problems. If you're born with a compromised digestive system, then it's there to stay, and you just have to navigate your way through it. And this is what Catherine helps you with, how to navigate this path of being a free from child. But this is the book my mom says that she just always wanted to write. My mom says it's good, then it's gotta be great. So Catherine starts the book by saying it all started with green poop. Yes, we're going there. If you find your baby having green poop, you know something is wrong. She tells the journey, how she had candida, and because she had candida, then her daughter was born with candida. If you don't know what candida is, just Google it. It is actually much more common than most people think it is. It is caused by severe stress. I was also a candida baby. So my mom had candida and I had candida, which means I had all the intolerances to the sugar, the gluten, and the dairy. Mila's Meals focuses primarily on being free from gluten, dairy, and sugar. You don't necessarily have to be free from all those things, but this is a guide to how to adapt and go have a gluten-free option, dairy-free option, sugar-free options. So we are definitely gonna go into the recipes. The recipes are absolutely incredible. I have been making them for myself. Even some of the purees I've made for myself. I've sent some to some of my family members. My dad saw the book in the kitchen and he's asked me to make him the sugar-free strawberry jam. This is like a family book. Like these recipes can be for anyone, and I would highly recommend them for everyone. So avocado season calls for the most delicious chocolate mousse, and you can totally sneak in like spirulina and like naughty things in here for your little one. And the texture of the avo makes this so smooth, so beautiful, so moussey. There's so much resource, there's so much knowledge dispersed in this book. So in the book, Catherine sets out 3 philosophies. The first one being that all disease begins with the gut. The gut connects us to our immune systems, our emotions, everything just starts in the gut. Especially now that everyone is on high alert about having a strong immune system, this is definitely the time to look at our guts and look at our gut health. The second philosophy is that no amount of food can nourish a starving soul. Catherine has such a holistic approach to everything. The third philosophy, that one man's food can be another man's poison. You get so many health books that tell you that you have to do this. Catherine doesn't say that you have to be gluten, dairy, sugar-free. It's not a have to. You've got to take the advice she's giving you and then adapt it to you and your child as an individual. What your one child can have might not work for the other one. Then there's a section where she just busts food myths. She calls it the unlearn section. For example, the hype about rice cereal, the issues that come with whole grain, raw milk, liver. There's a lot of good information here about liver, which I particularly enjoyed a lot. Eggs, the rule that you can't give a newborn any eggs until in their first years. So Catherine says that studies have shown that egg yolk in the first year of a child's development is actually incredible for them. The myth that snotty noses are fine. Then Catherine has these incredible charts where she just breaks it all up and makes it super easy to understand all these very difficult terms. She has a chart which breaks down nutrients and vitamins, how they work, how they operate in the system, why the baby needs them, and where you can find these little minerals and vitamins. The chart of how to introduce your child to whole foods. And she also advises the 3-day wait rule. So how do you actually know that your child has an intolerance? And this can all be discovered in the way you introduce foods to your baby. So you don't want to introduce your child to all the foods, the whole rainbow of food. So what you do is you introduce the new food and then you wait 3 days with that food before you introduce the next food. Now the reason why I want to do the 3-day wait rule and introducing the foods one for one is because it's way better to do it this way than introducing everything, realizing there's an intolerance, and then having to take everything away from your child. If this sounds like massively complicated, don't worry, it's not, because there's a whole chart to help you with the introduction of food. There's the allergy and intolerance chart, and again, she breaks down what is an allergy, what is an intolerance. I particularly like the section about food additives and preservatives, how to check them on labels, and actually what the effects of food additives are. Let's quickly talk about the issue of making food from scratch. Catherine is really honest in this part where she says it is time consuming. Making all your own food from scratch, it takes time, it takes planning, it takes time. It is so much easier to just order Uber Eats. And that's why she gives you all these amazing tips on how to prepare food, how to store food. What I thought was very interesting is she said there's a payoff. She said she would rather spend all the time in the kitchen, yes, it's time consuming, making everything from scratch, than giving the pizza, giving the pre-made food, and then dealing with a child who is moody, in pain, suffering, who needs to go to doctors, who needs to be on medication. She'd rather just make the food from scratch than dealing with all the other stuff. So as long as you are consciously aware that there is a payoff. So now let's get into the nitty-gritty parts about raising a free-from baby. Let's start off with gluten. Catherine breaks down again what gluten does to the body, what the effects can be of it. But then she also gives you the alternatives. You take gluten away, but you can substitute it with all these amazing gluten-free flours. She gives you a beautiful guide on all the gluten-free flours that you can use. Dairy. I remember a friend once saying to me that she can't imagine a life without dairy. To be honest, a life without dairy is actually fine because there are so many alternatives. There are nut milks, coconut milk, all these options are out there. And then the last one, we have sugar. Sugar, sugar, sugar. I mean, have you tasted how sweet dates are? Incredible. Catherine gives you all these options for sugar-free alternatives. Catherine gives a really nice guide and tip here. She says you don't always have to reward your child with sugar. A treat doesn't always need to be sugar. It can be something else. We can broaden our definition of what is a reward. It could be getting new paints to do that little DIY project. It could be playing a fun little game. There is so much in this book. I can talk for hours. There's the whole approach to mindfulness and consciousness with food and spirituality. I thought it was very interesting, the breastfeeding formula that she's put in there. So this is a natural breastfeeding formula made with goat's milk. And I think it's so great because I know a lot of my friends and a lot of people who are using formula and maybe you don't really want to use a formula with preservatives and sugars and all sorts of other things. I was so happy when I found the chicken liver pate recipe. Although I made mine a bit of a mix of the chicken liver pate recipe that she gives and then the puree. There's a chicken liver puree recipe with all the baby purees. All the purees look incredible and making them for myself. So Mila's Meals is a book that I would highly recommend for any mommy. And I do think there's a part of us that feels like our children would never be the free-from child and there's a stigma around what it is to be the free-from child. But I think think we need to get over those stigmas because it's real, and it's more real than we actually want to admit. So this is a beautiful holistic approach to raising your child and raising your family. I almost want to recommend it to non-mommies because I could totally learn from this resource. Have a look at Catherine's website, there's so much there. If you haven't done so, subscribe to this channel so that you can get more conscious inspiration, tips and reviews.